Click, 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 click. Hey guys, what is going on? It is Program with Pags. Welcome to today's episode. We are going to cover two things. One is integrating Clerk with Next.js. It's an amazing authentication library or authentication third-party integration. And the other thing is there's a hydration error that I want to show you guys how I've solved in Next.js. So got my old cup of Joe here. Let me initialize a folder real quick, and I'll say Clerk tutorial. And I'm going to drag and drop that into my VS Code, start a brand new project. Hold on, guys. Let me turn up the audio on the microphone. I can see that it's not picking up as much as I'd like it to. And let me go ahead and exit all of this stuff out. You guys more than likely won't have that. And I'm going to do npx create, not React app, but Next app at latest. And we'll run through all the configurations here. So why is authentication important? Well, if you're building a dashboard, for instance, you want to have different users, right? And if I'm a user and you're a user and we're both using the same dashboard, we should be able to approach it in different authentication sessions. In other words, I shouldn't see your dashboard and you shouldn't see my dashboard unless we're on the same team and that's a feature of the application or something. But let's go ahead and answer these questions. So do I want to use TypeScript? Yes, I do. Do I want to use ESLint? Sure, why not? Tailwind CSS? Yes. Source directory? No. App router? Yes. Import alias? I will say no. And boom, all that stuff's getting installed. You can see the React router DOM, all that stuff. And on the right side, while that's loading, I'm going to search for Clerk Auth real quick, just in Google. And you can see I've clicked on it a ton. It might take us to our dashboard. Oh, okay, perfect. So I won't log in quite yet. We're going to go to the documentation. And we're going to see quick start for Next.js. So you could see, and then I'll also just run dev real quick on the left. So I went to my terminal, npm run dev, and I'll press enter. Guys, let me zoom in so you can see a little bit better. Sorry, I'm on a I think it's a 33-inch or 32-inch LG screen, so it's pretty big. But okay, so this is firing up, and let me open up localhost. So it just should be a standard Next.js application. Boom, here it is. Let's just kind of initialize this in a basic way real quick. I'll go to the page. Let me close this out. I'll close the main tab right here, and I'll delete it all. Forgive me, guys. It's a little early in the morning. My phone alarm actually went off. super convenient. But let's just build a basic div, and this can be the landing page is what I'll call this, right? And then we'll build an authentication layer where maybe it's like a dashboard page or something. So we have a landing page, and let's go ahead and integrate Clerk. So I will install it, and guys, we might need to wrestle with it too. I know they just changed a bunch of things, but let's figure it out. So I have my publishable key, as you can see. Let's this is actually for a project I have. So let me not show the secret key for that one. Let me create a new organization, or better yet, I'll sign out of this. And then let me sign in with a completely fresh account. So I'll use this program with Pags email. It'll log me into Clerk, and let's initialize from that. Okay, so name the application here. I'll say Clerk tutorial. But this is easily where you do it. And then right below, you can choose your federated identities. That's what these are called. Your Google account, your GitHub account, LinkedIn accounts. So I'll choose two common ones, which would be Google and LinkedIn, or maybe Google and GitHub, or Discord or something like that. And that'll be relevant. I'll show you guys why in a moment. And you could always change that too. It's not a huge deal. So let me exit out of this tutorial. Actually, we did need that. I shouldn't have done that. But we need this Clerk public key and private key, the publishable key and the secret key. I'm going to copy these down, and on the left, I'm going to open up the Explorer, and I will make a file called .env.local, and I pasted in my secret key and my publishable key. Obviously, you guys won't have the same exact secret key or publishable key, but they should be obviously unique, and don't share those with other people. I'll obviously delete this project. It won't be relevant for me, so not a huge deal. Let's go ahead and wrap the application in what's called a Clerk Provider. So let's follow this. They say what you want to do is import Clerk. So I'll import Clerk import Clerk Provider from Clerk / Next.js at the top. And then what I do is I can wrap the application in this Clerk Provider. So I take that and place it here like this. And now what this does is saying the entire application has access to Clerk's authentication. So we could pull, use user hooks. We could pull authentication stuff. We could do a lot with that hook. The other thing we need to do is go to Explorer again. I'm going to close all the folders here. Let me close the editor. And I'm going to build a new file. And this new file is going to be called middleware.ts. And this is what it'll look like by the end of it. I do have also other projects. Let me reference real quick just to double check. I do remember I had to do a few other things in the middleware. So this is how I have the middleware is export auth middleware. And yeah, so this is the piece right here that I wanted to add, which was adding public routes and ignored routes. So this is what Clerk will provide you with, and you just need to open this up and add the public routes that anybody can access in your application, versus the routes that are inaccessible, that are behind an auth wall. So if it's not one of these routes, you can see I'm using webhooks on that other application. But if it's not one of these routes, it means you will have to sign in to access the page. So let's build a dashboard page. We'll leave the initial route, just the / as the public page. So this page right here will be our landing page. And this is accessible throughout the entire application. And it doesn't matter if you're logged in or logged out, you can access that page. But every other route, if we want to go to any other route path, any /dashboard or /dashboard user ID, whatever it might be, we will have to be authenticated. So there's other things you can do. I think that's all we need to do for authentication, but there's other nice things that Clerk has provided. They have a user button, which allows us to manage the account and show the image that your account is. So I'll pull that in, for instance. Let's also build out the thing I'm saying. So I'll build a new page. This will be our dashboard page. And because it's not a public route, we should not be able to access the dashboard page. So I'll name it page.tsx, and we'll say RFCE just to initialize the React snippet. But as you can see, this will be our dashboard page. And of course, I'm only putting placeholders here, guys. Obviously, design your dashboard as you need to design it. Obviously, design your landing page as you need to design it. I'll import this Clerk user button just to have it. And realistically, this should go in a navigation component or something like that. But I will put this in here, and we'll say class name. Let me just give this a little bit of CSS, nothing too crazy, just flex call. And I'll put the user button above the dashboard page. And let me center this all as well. So I'll say justify center, items center, should center our application a little bit. So we have our landing page, which is not centered. Let me actually just put this on the layout here instead of our enter.className. We'll go ahead and just pop this in, which should center us if we do with full and min height screen. And our server was down, so I'm going to refire that open and do npm run dev. So that should update us. We should have all of our middleware now. We should have everything. And I could actually go ahead and remove this because this page should be centered from the layout stuff. So let me refresh this. This should all be working. Let's take a look real quick. While it's loading. Boom. So we're centered. We have our landing page, and forgive me, we do actually need to build the sign in and sign out. And I'm going to pull up the previous project that I have. And what I remember is we have to do some routes for it. So we have a nested folder within a nested folder, I believe. So let me figure this out real quick. So we have a sign in folder with this folder within it for the sign up flow. So I'll make a new folder. It will be called sign in. And within this folder, I'm going to make another folder. And this folder is going to be, looks like it's wrapped in 2 brackets. And then I do ... /sign in. Or not slash sign in, just ... sign in. And then one more step is within that folder that we just made. I'm going to click that. I'm going to right click and say page.tsx. So again, this is how your route should look. It should be your sign in, and then this right here, ... /sign in, and then finally page.tsx. That's what the route ultimately should be. Within this sign in page.tsx, I'm going to import a Clerk component called sign in, and boom, right here. We've already imported it. So let me exit out of this so you guys can see this one more moment real quick. So it's import sign in from @clerk/Next.js, and I just pop in sign in right here. So if I now access this route, this /sign in route, I should get redirected to this Clerk component. So let's try it. I'm gonna type in /sign in as my route, and let's see if we get redirected to a Clerk page. And we did. That's awesome. And these are the federated identities that we just chose, which was the Google and LinkedIn. And if I needed to update that or add more, let me go to my personal account here. Let me zoom out a bit and maybe do this. I can do, where is it? I believe it is, maybe it's organization settings or, forgive me guys, social connections. There we go. So if you need to add or remove some of these federated identities, you can add and remove them here. So I can go ahead and say, add Facebook. I think Clerk has some of their paid and unpaid stuff that allows you to maybe only have a limited amount. So let me take off one of them and let's see if that updates. Boom. So I took off LinkedIn and you can see that updated. But let me put LinkedIn back on and let's update that. And you could sign up with an email as well. So I will show that sign up flow real quick. Here's an email, and I'll say email for Clerk. And what Yopmail is just a test email account that generates emails really quick so you could test your sign up flows. So let's go to our application. I'm going to close out of this Clerk dashboard, at least that one, and we'll use this one here in a moment. But I'm going to go to the click sign up, no account. I'll go to email for clerk@yopmail.com. The password, I just popped in the same thing real quick. And you could see it takes me to a verification step. And if I go to back to Yopmail and refresh, I should get a Clerk verification code from the Clerk tutorial. So that's the sign up flow for an email. If you use the federated identity, if you use Google, it'll automatically, and I'll show you guys how to do a redirection as well. But now we should be able to access our dashboard page. And you can see our user icon as well, our user button. If you remember on our dashboard page, that's this button right here that we imported from Clerk. So I can actually click on this and I can sign out, and that should pull me out of the dashboard. Because again, our dashboard is behind an auth wall. It's not one of the public routes we declared in our middleware.ts. So did you see how I tried to go to the dashboard route and it would not let me go? It redirected me to Clerk signin.ts. So let me show you guys again how to just how to think about this. So we have our landing page, and within our landing page, maybe we'll have a sign up button or a login button, right? Something like this. And let me just build this button out real quick. So if I do background red 500, we'll say border red 500, and this will be a little bit more defined. Maybe say padding 4, just build a button of some nature. We'll build that border. Rounded MD, we'll say text center, active. Let me close out that. Active scale, say scale 90, and we'll give it a transition. And maybe even a hover. Opacity of 50. So we have our login button. All it does is it's just a pretty button right now. You could see me click it. And right now I just need to add an on click. And this on click, you can use a link, you can use a router, you could pull in Next routing. So you could say import use router from Next navigation. I can instantiate or initialize that router and say const router equals use router and configure it. And then I could build a function that's handle routes or handle navigation, whichever you want to name it. And this will take in a route name and I'll declare it as a string. And I can say router.push route name. And that should take us to wherever we declare. So right now I want to take it to the dashboard application, or I can say take it to the sign up page. They'll both have the same effect. So, and this is a client-side component. So you can see this error, use router only works in client-side components. So what we need to do is go to the top of the page. I'll remove that next image. We're not using it. And I need to declare that this is a client-side component because in Next.js, by default, everything is a server component. So now when I click on this button, it should route me to the dashboard, but because it's behind an auth wall, it'll route me to the clerk signup. I could also route to the clerk signup, and that would work too. You also don't have to do all this other stuff, this routing. All this simply is a link, which works too, which I could say login with link, and I'm just hrefing basically to dashboard. They're both going to do the same thing. And let me steal that class name for this as well. You can see we're having some weird overlap stuff, but both of these ways of handling routing, however you want to handle routing, works as well. So I was just showing possible alternatives. I like using functions because then you can kind of define certain role-based nav. You could do a lot more. So, but end of the day, basically all you're doing is just routing to that path. And let's click it. It'll take us to the login screen, which is perfect. And this time I'll do a federated identity. Last time we did the Yotmail. I'll choose that program with PAGs again. And I should be, I won't be redirected to the application because of Clerk. I'm redirected because of our authentication. And you can also declare your redirection though in Clerk. There is a way to, I'll go to Clerk tutorial here, clicking on the dashboard. And there's other paths, I believe, that you can configure right here. Application homepage, I could say this is dashboard or home. And you should declare your fallback development host right here, which is localhost for me. So I'll do that. That's a good practice to do. And then the application homepage, again, you can leave it blank, and that'll obviously just be this route, or you can declare your homepage of dashboard or whichever it may be. So I'll apply changes. I'll leave it blank because it should redirect, and you can do other things as well. For instance, if a user is logged in, they should maybe never see this like sign up page again. So an example of something you could do in Next.js is use effect. On mount, you can check if this user is logged in. So what I can do is also import my user or import auth from Clerk.js, and let me instantiate it, and I can destructure my auth and pull in the user ID. So if I console log this now in my use effect, I should be able to see the user ID that this user is. And let's see if we get it. Auth can only be used in a server environment. And this is the second issue that I wanted to talk about, is the hydration errors and the how to make this server versus client side rendered. So let's undo these changes just so we can remove the error. And let's just establish that we have a working authentication system. the thing I want to do now is handle some of these errors. And I'm going to close out of some of these pages real quick. And what we need to focus on is our page that we're configuring this authentication on. And then we also need to configure this. This Clerk Provider, one approach to it that I've noticed to fix the hydration error that I've seen and to fix this server side, if you want to pull an auth, is to do something like this. It's barreling a component using a higher order component. So I will build a component folder or a providers folder, either or, and we need to do a few things. I'm going to pull up my old project real quick just to steal the code from. And I have what is a, where is it? Providers. I have my auth context and my auth provider. And auth context is just initializing my React use context hook. So this is what it looks like. And let me explain roughly what we're doing. We're going to pull out the Clerk Provider. We're going to use the use authentication, the use user hook and the auth hook that Clerk provides, or the auth instance that Clerk provides. And we're going to pull that data out in a server environment and reinstantiate it wherever we want in our application. So step one is to use the auth context. The second step is to generate a provider. And what the provider is, it's going to take a value, the user ID, and children. So let's go ahead and do that as well. Auth provider.tsx. And mind you, you do not have to do this step. It is just the way to really, in my opinion, add authentication credentials and data, as well handle the hydration error in all bits of your application. So right now, if we wrap our layout in this real quick, our auth provider, this auth provider takes a value, and the value is user ID. And we need to get this user ID from Clerk. So I will pull in Clerk in here in a server environment. I will say auth from clerk.nextjs. I can remove this inter stuff. I don't need it. And I will come down here and say const user ID, for instance, or whichever things I need from this auth session. And I can pass it in as a string. And now my Clerk Provider is nested with my auth provider. And all of this is going to allow for us to pull in the user ID in client-side components or server-side components. And how I can do that, instead of importing auth here, which we saw through an error, I could say import use context from React. And I could also say const user ID, because that is the context we're pulling in use context, and pull in my auth context. And now out of this, we should have access to the user ID that is being provided in our auth provider that is being pulled from Clerk. I know it's a nesting within a nesting, but that should allow for us to use our user ID wherever we want. So boom, that is our user ID, and it is as good as gold. That will be with us wherever we go inside the application if we want, after we're logged in. And one way I could use things is like using this user ID to redirect. So I could say, if there is a user ID, handle navigation and redirect to the dashboard, for instance. And something like that would be, if I'm logged in as a user and I land on the home route with no route, I'll be redirected to this page. As you can see, it's not allowing me to go to that page. But if I want to go back to the landing page, for instance, you can log out and obviously access the landing page. We should see the user ID no longer be accessible. But yeah, so that is a bit of, sorry guys, this should allow me to localhost. That's weird. Let me run dev, see what's going on. But, and let me get rid of this link. But there are a few ideas here and a few ways to utilize Clerk and use your app provider context. So here's our landing page again, and I am not allowed to go to the dashboard, right? So there's a few ways you can use this user ID. Maybe even we can have a login thing, and I'll say this one will be go to dashboard, and instead of it being red, we'll make it blue. And let me space these guys out. I'll say MY2 just to give them a little space. And we'll say go to dashboard. And obviously it won't take me there. It will only take me to sign up, but I can also conditionally render buttons like this. So let me wrap this and I'll say if user ID exists, allow for that go to dashboard button. So you can see how it doesn't exist. Let me clean this up even a little bit more. I'll build a template component is what I call them. So I'll say dashboard button. And let me return real quick and boom. I can now close this out. It's kind of like a component inside of React. So I don't need to put all that template markup here. I could do this with the login thing too. Or of course you could build out components. They both work the same. But this is stuff that I do is what I call template functions. And this will make a little bit more sense right here. So you just instantiate the function like this, and it'll return all the template markup that you have there. So it's also a really, really easy way to clean up a profile. So boom, we have our user ID. Let me just flex call this real quick, even though it did right there. But you can see we don't have a user ID right now. I'm going to log into the application and then sign in, go get my user ID, and then I'll redirect from the dashboard because this should give us our dashboard page. Current users are only supported in the app router directory. Okay, so maybe I broke something, guys. One moment. App layout. Users only. I think I just had that at the wrong scope was all that was. Because this is what it should your component should look like. So I'm on the dashboard page, and then obviously if I can now go to the dashboard page and put a button here as well. I'll steal one of our login buttons, and I will have that be a redirect to the and I won't do all this function stuff. I'll just make it a link that hrefs to the homepage. And I'll say go home page button or something. And I just want to show the home page. So here's our go home page button. And I can click it and go back home. Oh, we still have our use effect here. So I'm going to remove that for now. We don't need that. That was just showing you guys ideas that you could use with the user ID. I went back to our home page, and you can see that I still have my user ID within the entire application, and I can route to my dashboard now. Go to dashboard. But again, if I log out, I will no longer see the user ID, and I will no longer see the go to dashboard button. So there's some ideas for you guys